Latest poll finds support for Scottish independence at 54%.
Here's a summary of the article.
Support for Scottish independence has increased to 54%, with a panel-based poll finding an increasing number of Labour voters would now back independence. The poll found that Labour voter support for independence has increased from 35% to 37%, with 13% of said voters unsure how they would vote in the event of a second independence referendum. This is the fifth panel-based poll to ask the independence question in 2020, and those polls have now found support for independence to be 52%, 49%, 50%, 52% and 54%. 54% is the highest level of support registered by a British polling council member since the poll on independence in the immediate aftermath of the 2016 Brexit vote. Speaking to our pro-independence sister paper The National, Rob Aberdeen, the Business for Scotland chair, said, "Future polls will paint a clearer picture, but this may suggest that its leader's fundamentalist stance against a second referendum is driving voters away from the party and into the arms of the Yes movement." He added, "In the 2 weeks since the last poll, we have had Labour hardening its opposition to a second referendum, the Scottish First Minister being seen as a safe pair of hands on the Scottish Government's COVID-19 response compared with Westminster's response, and the Conservatives in Scotland trying to force the First Minister to open up the economy more quickly than the First Minister believes is safe." Sir Billy Connolly, one of Scotland's most iconic celebrities, threw his weight behind the cause of Scottish independence, insisting the prospect of the country becoming a republic is "as good an idea as any I've ever heard." We have also had loyalist, British nationalist protests in Glasgow resulting in violent clashes with the police. To read the full story, visit the site of Pro-Independence, our sister paper The National.
This post received a score of 10,000, with an upvote ratio of 92%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
As a Scot, I feel I need to tell people that we constantly have polls here, but the only time you ever see them on Reddit is when they shows a pro-independence majority, so be aware that there is a large selection bias at play. The polls have basically been oscillating around the 40 to 55% mark for the last 5 years. This poll means nothing in of itself. The poll was also carried out by a pro-independence group, if that's the kind of thing you put weight on.
Very true, it's the same with Irish unification. The majority of people in Northern Ireland want to stay part of the UK. Example source. It's only ever reported on here there's a slight increase in for reunification in the polls. Basically take everything you read on Reddit with a pinch of salt because it never tells the full story. Reminds me of how people on Reddit thought that Corbyn was going to win the 2019 general election when anyone who had actually been following UK politics could have told you that he didn't stand a chance.
People didn't think he was going to win, they wanted him to win. There was very little in the way of shock, except, well shit, I thought it might be a bit closer than that. Contrast this with the 2016 US presidential election, in which people most emphatically did expect Hillary Clinton to win, and a full-on meltdown ensued. I don't think Reddit expected him to lose that badly. I mean, Christ, it was a disaster.
I think it was pretty obvious that Corbyn was toast. He was muddy on Brexit and that was the only issue that mattered. At least have one who's charismatic and stakes out clear issue positions that contrast with the opposition. I suspect if Labour had someone like Nicola Sturgeon leading it they could have been victorious, but instead they had that useless relic Corbyn spouting off far-left stuff from decades ago.
In general, there just seemed to be a major rift between progressive lefts and conservative lefts in England, USA, while the rights are much more united. Edit, I guess the better term is that moderate lefts and progressive lefts are quite divided while conservative, liberal rights can cooperate just fine.
You need to be better trained, better organized, better tech, better motivation and more numbers in order to pull off an offensive. In 20th century war, a 3-to-1 outnumbering is orthodox for an offensive. They want to keep things the way they were, and inertia is on their side. It requires either a very charismatic leader or a more competent organization with better administrative and marketing skills.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.